My question is to the Premier. Maybe we need to bring him to the far north and find out just how much we need a government to help us. My question to the Premier is as follows. Yesterday, the Environmental Commissioner in his press conference in regards to his annual report was asked a question by the media in regards to First Nations who are offside with Bill 191, the Far North Planning Act, and how that would hamper development should the Far North nations not be on side. He says, and I quote, "If these disputes aren't resolved, then the whole thing will degrade into conflict," he said, "and we won't get the jobs." So my question to you is simply this. Why are you moving forward with Bill 191 when absolutely nobody in Northern Ontario supports it, and we know it will add to conflict?
Here. Speaker of the Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm really pleased to answer this question and to comment on what's been happening over the last few weeks. And certainly, I was really pleased to have had the opportunity to visit the far north this summer. I visited 8 different communities, was able to talk with a number of chiefs and elders and young people. And certainly, I was disappointed when we got to clause-by-clause consideration when the opposition failed to put any amendments on the table to improve the legislation. In fact, they walked out of the hearings. It would have been really helpful had they stayed at the table, because this is about land use planning and protection of the far north, and we need the opposition to participate in that conversation. It's only healthy because we believe in land use planning. We think it's an important thing to do as well as protecting the far north. And it's important that we have all those parties come to the table and participate in that conversation. So this is the beginning of the conversation. We want to continue to work with our First Nations communities. Thank you, Speaker.
Supplementary.
Well, you know, the minister says she went to 8 communities in the far north. Let me ask you this. When there is going to be civil disobedience on the part of First Nations in places in the Ring of Fire, when there will be civil disobedience on behalf of First Nations because they will not allow their future generation to live the experience that they've had of living in poverty and being left out of the economic benefit that can come from the natural resources, will this government go to those First Nations and try to deal with trying to fix the damage that you've done under Bill 91, or are you going to be sending him to police, or will you send him to jail as you did in the case of KI?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think we all know that there are some unique opportunities in the north, and this is about working together. It's about working with First Nations and Northern Ontarians about building on all that potential. Together, we're going to create Ontario jobs, and we're going to support families in the north while we protect the boreal forest region. So resource development in the far north is one of the best economic opportunities to come across in Ontario for a very long time. We want to lead it, and we want our communities to be part of it, and we put in legislation that is on the table that will allow First Nations to direct that land use planning, decide whether they're going to do it, approve it. This is historic legislation. We've never done business like this before, and it's important to recognize that conversation has happened over the summer. It will continue onwards. This is about working together with First Nations communities, and we appreciate that we have land use plans in place now, and we will continue.
Thank you. New